Hi, I'm Shauna from Gluten-Free Girl and the Chef, and I know that when I first went gluten-free, I thought I would never eat bread again. And then I ate some bad gluten-free bread, and I really thought I'd never eat bread again. Well, it turns out it's not true at all. There's great gluten-free bread if you make it yourself. And today, we're going to teach you how to make breadsticks. So let's talk about bread. Gluten-free bread is never going to be the same as gluten bread. Bread is one of the few baked goods that truly does rely on gluten. Does that mean you'll never eat it? No, these breadsticks are pretty darn good. But you just have to go through a different process and use a completely different technique than you might if you were making regular bread. And the key, which you'll see soon, is that the batter looks very different than a gluten-free dough. But once you get used to that and you don't automatically add more flour, you're going to have great gluten-free bread. So in this case, sticks. Here's our mise en place for making gluten-free breadsticks. And the great thing is it doesn't require that many ingredients. You'll need some gluten-free all-purpose flour mix, some psyllium husk, yeast, of course, this is a yeasted bread, some olive oil, an egg, this is at room temperature, kosher salt, and some honey. That's it. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is weigh our flour, and notice that I say weigh. We have a scale in front of us. I have flour on me, so we're already baking. And we're going to need 750 grams of this flour. You have to weigh gluten-free flours when you're baking, if you're using the right ratio, because each of the different gluten-free flours has a different weight and density. So if I did cup for cup on this, and you did a different set of flours, your breadsticks may not come out as well. They may not work at all. Maybe they'll be too dense, maybe they'll be too light. I want to make sure that your breadsticks work. So, trust me, 750 grams of flour. This is going to make a huge batch, so you either are going to make a lot of breadsticks or you're going to use it for different purposes. So that's 750 grams of gluten-free all-purpose flour mix, which we will show you in a video soon how to make. Put that into the bowl of a stand mixer and 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. You actually want quite a bit of salt here because without it, the bread won't taste like very much. In Tuscany and Italy, they're famous for a salt-free bread, and from what I hear, it's just awful. So you don't want that, as much as we love Tuscany. This is about a tablespoon of psyllium, weighed it before, and then we want our yeast. This is 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast. The great thing about active dry yeast is you can just put it right into the dry ingredients. You don't have to proof it first. You can, but it actually, there's no real difference. I can't tell any difference. So that's all you need. Your dry ingredients, look, I'm going to use our hands, mix them all up. So we're going to use about 2 tablespoons of honey, and you're going to see I'm going to be squirting a lot of honey here. I like the taste of honey because more than sugar, it has a real richness to it. But you could certainly do sugar here, a little maple syrup, I don't know, something. You just need a little sweetener to activate the yeast. And also, it helps to cover up any, I'm not going to say bad flavors in the flours, but unfamiliar flavors. A lot of the gluten-free flours may not taste the way you're used to. Here's a 1/4 cup of olive oil and 1 egg. If you need this recipe to be egg-free, make sure to look at the recipe on our website where we'll have it. You can certainly make this recipe without a stand mixer. You could probably use a hand mixer, or you could use your hands if you wanted. But boy, a stand mixer makes all gluten-free baking much, much easier. So here's the deal about gluten-free baking, and actually any kind of bread baking. The amount of water you're going to need is going to vary from day to day, and particularly for gluten-free baking, just how much flour you have and what kinds of flour. All the different flours absorb moisture differently. So in that case, we just started with 350 grams of water, and it's still not there yet. Now you might think that's bread dough, but it needs to be wetter. Let's get it going a little bit higher. So here's the hard part when you first start to bake gluten-free. That doesn't look anything like bread dough, except with gluten-free bread dough, it is. Gluten-free bread dough needs to be far, far wetter when you just stop the stand mixer than a traditional bread dough is. Trust us, we'll wait a couple of hours, you'll see the difference. Let's let it go for about 3-4 minutes. So here's our gluten-free bread dough. It may look more like cookie dough or even thick waffle batter, and that's exactly the consistency you're going for, is that right there. In this case, on this day, in this house, that was about 2 1/4 cups of water. You might need 1 3/4, you might need 3, it depends. Put your batter in a greased bowl. We're just going to cover it with plastic wrap. Give it a little leap, a little push. Make it warmer so that all of the heat doesn't escape. Now here's the gluten-free breadstick dough after it has risen for an hour and a half. You'll notice that it has not necessarily doubled in size, but it has risen. Remember that sticky, super wet dough? Now it's a little bit tighter and it acts a little bit more like bread dough. If you want to, you can let it rise overnight in the refrigerator, which would be a nice, long, slow rise. Or you can let it rise for another hour or two and it'll be even tighter. What you're going for is dough that is kneadable, and that's pretty soon. Here we are the next day. We've let the dough sit in the refrigerator overnight for a nice slow rise, and as you can see, it's a completely different texture now than that wet, soppy batter we had before. In fact, what's great about dough with psyllium that you let rise and sit for a long time is it's now kneadable. Just knead the dough in your hands. Isn't it amazing? You can knead a gluten-free dough like this. Get the air pockets out, kind of punch it down, and then think Play-Doh. This is the fun part. I like a breadstick about that size. There you go. We've let these sit for about 30 minutes on a baking sheet to proof. They grew in size, they rested a little bit, and now we're just going to do an egg wash. This will make them nice crackly brown. And here are the breadsticks. We put them in a 450-degree oven for about 20 minutes. It'll depend on your oven as to how long it takes. And look at this, they crack open. Lovely insides, crisp, crunchy, brown. Sure can, kiddo. Have a breadstick. And they make cranky kids happy too.